Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
Hello and welcome in, friends, to another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. The Chicago Bears have been silent, have done nothing since their embarrassing performance in Wild Card Weekend against the New Orleans Saints. So it is time to put them under the microscope and see what the hell is going on at Hallis Hall. But before we get to all that, let's take care of some housekeeping notes. You can follow me all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at MikeMedia, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and the show's on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the network at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. The home tour interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities. That's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. Start 2021 right at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Play video games with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airways, and keep up to date with everything you're doing on the network, from the True Crime Show, the Pop Culture Show, and everything in between on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. All right, friends, so normally if you are a veteran of Sports from the Couch, you know we like to do a show every Monday to kind of recap what happened in the weekend that was in the sports world. And after we did a post-game show for the Chicago Bears after they embarrassed themselves on Nickelodeon and against the New Orleans Saints in the wild card game, we wanted to give it a little bit of time to breathe to see if any news would drop for the Chicago Bears, whether it came from the ownership, the general manager, the coach, the players, whatever the case may have been. And as of right now, on Tuesday morning at 6:16 a.m. in the beautiful city of Chicago on Wednesday, January 13, 2021, the only thing we have heard is that Chuck Pagano, the now former defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, has retired from the National Football League. And a lot of people now believe that this is maybe the only scapegoat that will happen in this offseason. And with that in mind, we still have some rumors going around that nothing will change. This comes from Dan Wiederer. It is league sources. Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy will be back in 2021. Chuck Pagano will be retiring, like we mentioned just a little bit ago. And now that kind of turns the attention to Ted Phillips. Now, here's some stuff we need to know about Ted Phillips, especially here in Chicago when we've had guys like Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn, AK and Eversley. You've seen it over on the Blackhawks with Bowman. There's something, and then with Theo and Jed Hoyer, you need a great executive with a GM to be able to make moves that are not only going to make your team good for the now, but not put yourself in horrible positions down the road, which this front office has done time and time again. So here's Ted Phillips. In 21 seasons as team president, 24 different starting quarterbacks, 5 at or below 500 seasons, 13 third or last place division finishes, 10 seasons with a losing record, 6 playoff appearances, 5 division championships, 3 playoff wins, 1 Super Bowl appearance, 0 Super Bowl wins at all. 21 years in one of the charter franchises in the most popular sport in North America. That's where we're at right now. So a lot of rumors going around if this may be the time that Ted Phillips retires. Maybe that's the big movement. Maybe that's why we haven't really heard anything. And if that's the case, then now is your one opportunity to bring somebody in who's an actual football mind and hasn't been groomed in the family for 20 years and years before that. It's what you did with John Paxson with the Bulls. It's what Jerry did. You got to be able to make these moves, even though there's personal ties to them. The business end of it, Ted Phillips has made the McCaskies a bunch of money. Can't deny that. Like, the man knows the books. But when it comes to putting guys in position, people in position to make this franchise better, to not just be a basement-dwelling team in the NFL, the Chicago Bears, you're on the same line as Cincinnati Bengals? Like, that's where you see your franchise at this point? Because by these moves, that's what it is. So this is kind of the story of the actual moves that need to be made that can change the entire organization, not just the roster, but the entire organization, the franchise moving forward for the next 10, 15, 20 years. Because we've seen what the last 21 years have been. Yeah, there's been some good, of course. But look around the NFL. Is some good, of course, good enough? No, absolutely not. So here's some stuff we need to talk about as we bury these Bears, and more news might trickle down over the next few weeks. One, no one has lost their job yet. Right? We just spent the last 5 minutes talking about it. The fact that there's no news is typical Bears. In this city, we're spoiled with GMs and executives that talk to the media, that talk to you, the fan, talk to us, the consumer. Not the Bears, not Ryan Pace, not the McCaskies. They don't talk, except for their sponsored show half an hour before kickoff on the radio in the flagship network. Interesting, huh? How about Allen Robinson? We talk about not being able to make moves. How about the fact that you have probably a top 15, definitely a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL? And not only did you not even have talks in the offseason, you didn't make offers in the offseason. You are so far behind him. They're talking about some people in the league, he probably should get around 20 million, 21 million in the open market. That the Bears are around 16 to 18 million. Now look, everybody's getting paid ridiculous money. But I'm not going to cry poor for ownership of an NFL team, especially if your product is garbage. So pay your man. They're not going to. They're going to franchise tag him. He talks about how he hates the franchise tag. And really look into his comments. Just read his post-season comments, and the man doesn't want to be here. He wants to be wanted. He thought he was going to get taken care of. And the Bears didn't do that. They didn't take care of their most important offensive weapon. Because it sure as hell isn't their quarterback. Anthony Miller, Javon Wims, even a few days later. It's not that I'm mad, I'm disappointed. I'm pissed. Here's the thing. I don't think the Bears are going to win that game if Wims catches that ball. But they're in it. It's competitive. The narrative changes. The outlook changes. Maybe not the results, but a lot of things go one way when you drop it. There's only one way it can go. And when it comes to Anthony Miller, look at both of these guys throw punches at the same dude for New Orleans. The one thing about Wims, heat of the moment, it was dumb. All right. And then the fact that you miss the biggest play of your career, that's another thing, right? Those two things compound on top of each other in the same season. But the Anthony Miller thing, a guy that they moved up to get, again, draft capital by Ryan Pace, hasn't lived up to anything. Darnell Mooney is more valuable to the Bears than Anthony Miller is already. Was never quite the B to Allen Robinson's A, correct? In meetings leading into the most important game of all these guys' careers, they tell the wide receivers, don't get into it with this dude. He's got one job. He wants to instigate something with you. Yeah, all right, cool. Were you not paying attention? Because the first thing Anthony Miller does is throw punches at the same guy. So two things are happening right there. It's one of the two. Either the player's not listening or isn't smart enough to listen or doesn't have enough discipline to listen, or the coach and the coaching staff isn't good enough to implement it and they're not being listened to. It's one of the two. Maybe it's both. But it's not a good thing that it happened. There's no good reason you could give me that he did it, you know? And then there's this thought that Javon Wims not being cut the first time for the punch early on this season sets a precedent for Anthony Miller later on. Maybe. But here's the thing, right? I don't need to see somebody burn their hand, 3rd degrees to not touch a hot stove. Common sense should take over. Playoff game. My quarterback's job is on the line. My coach's job is on the line. I'm auditioning for jobs around the league. Maybe I shouldn't get into a fist fight with somebody wearing a helmet. So that's stuff that was on the field that I'm still mad about. But some other things you have to keep an eye on is this team doesn't have any cap space, right? They have cap space to take care of like their own, but they don't have cap space to go out there and go get Matt Ryan, go get Matthew Stafford, go get Deshaun Watson. And quite honest with you, I don't think the Bears should get the opportunity to make right by getting Deshaun Watson. I think Matt Nagy, and more specifically, not even Nagy, more specifically, Ted Phillips, the McCaskey family, and Ryan Pace should have to live with not being able to draft and then trade for Deshaun Watson. They should be able to stew in that. Let that be their legacy when it comes to the modern day of football, these in the 2020s. The late 2010s. Give me a break. But like this hope that they're going to come in and put this thing together with Band-Aids and bubblegum and string. With what money? And the money they did have, they spent on the defense that let you down. Knowing full well how bad that offense was. That's why I don't understand this idea of patience. You know, a lot of smart people are saying be patient. Let them. How can you be patient knowing what the rest of the league is doing, how fast the rest of the league is going, and you're just going to stay put? No, it's okay. We'll see what happens. We knew they were looking for every reason to stay put. We knew that. Doesn't make it right. You know, I was against burning it all down. I did believe that, you know, you don't want to become an organization that is constantly just having turnover. But here's the thing. You're having turnover in all the other important positions. At quarterback. At the coordinator positions. Even the head coaching. So it's not like this team doesn't have new faces constantly. It's at the most important position on the actual field. So you're okay with moving rapidly on that, but not the head coach? Not the guy who's bringing in the garbage roster? I don't understand. And in the NFL, when the turnaround is so, we're not talking about baseball, you know, where these guys have to develop, they're kids. You know, it's a skill, patience, the legitimate patience. You know, you got to get your time. You got to earn your time. There's contract, you know, weird things that people do with it when it comes to the front offices. You know, but the NBA, the NFL, hell, even the NHL in some instances, you got kids that come up there that change your organization, change your fortune for the next decade. And you want to stay put with this. Look at it. It's not like Nagy didn't have a guy he wanted in Nick Foles, right? He got somebody who, quote unquote, knows the offense. And what happened? So all of this weird, like, cup holding, hand holding, you know, coddling of this regime makes no sense. And especially knowing when Doug Peterson got fired in Philadelphia, who did it better than what Matt Nagy's doing with the Chicago Bears. The man misses one playoff and gets fired. Yeah, I get the quarterback benching and weirdness on Sunday Night Football might have had something to do with it, but it's also, we need to move on. We need to make a decision. We need to move forward. And then moving forward, what do you do with Mitch? He's one of the scapegoats. Look, and Mitch should not be on the team, but Mitch doesn't deserve all the blame either. I give him a bunch of crap, and he deserves a bunch of it. He'll admit it, but he'll find a job in the league. Hell, I wouldn't mind giving him $1 million for 1 year, the Jameis Winston contract. I'm not saying I would pick Mitch over Winston, but that idea. But don't get confused. If Mitch is the only one that's gone, this was a complete failure when it comes to evaluation of this team after this season, after these 3 years. You can't solely put it on him, as bad as he was. Don't let them fool you. Because Matt Nagy showed you when everything was on the line, in the playoffs, in the most watched game in CBS in the last 10 years, that he didn't trust his quarterback. And that your quarterback, with everything on the line, on 4th and 4, ran out of bounds. Nothing else characterizes this team than those two moments. And then you're looking for value on this team. Where's the value on this team? Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson. What do you get for any of these guys? How many first-round picks are you getting? How many picks are you getting that are going to change the way Ryan Pace evaluates talent? And this is the one thing I want to leave you with as we come winding down this kind of reaction to nothing happening in Hallis Hall. Let's say they're all staying back, right? So we're going to run it again. Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace. That means they're going to put everything on the line to try to win now. And what if they fall flat on their face like they have before? Then what? Because they're gone, and now your organization is screwed again for the next 5 years. That's what's happening right now to the Chicago Bears. Let me know your thoughts on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. The show's on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. That'll do it for us on this edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Don't forget, you can follow us all over the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and the show's on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the network at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. The home to our interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities. That's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. Start 2021 right at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. Play video games with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves. And keep up to date with everything you're doing on the network, from the true crime show, the pop culture show, and everything in between on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Enjoy all the games, take care of yourself, take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.